I'm very, very honoured and happy to be here with Jennifer this afternoon, who is a great traveller, a great guide, and a great person. I don't know how much anyone knows about her book, which came out earlier this year, but it's about her ventures in the Northeast. With one client. She did an extended trip with the same client, which, handling clients myself, I think is quite something. And they mainly concentrated on ornithology. They were both real bird enthusiasts. I think Pete, her traveller, became more of one under Jennifer's tutelage, but generally that's the theme of the book and what they got up to. But my first question to Jennifer is why the Northeast? Because I organise travel up there and it's still difficult. The infrastructure in a lot of the Northeast is still not good, and permits and accessibility. And you did this 15 years ago.
Yes.
And travelling with a foreigner when getting permits and paperwork was not great. So why the Northeast?
Thank you, Emma, for the question. And thank you, everybody, for being here. And thank you, Janvi, for inviting me. Thank you. Why the Northeast? Good question, because when I went there, I just found it to be staggeringly beautiful. I mean, the Brahmaputra is such a mighty river. It's more like a sea. And it harbors this island, a river island, called Majuli, the largest river island in the world. And at about 27 degrees north latitude, there is Namdapha and its surroundings, and that area is home to 4 felines, 1 tiger and 3 leopards, clouded snow and the common leopard. So where do you get all this? And, in one place. And then you have Namdapha National Park that spills over into Myanmar, which is Burma. And there, I mean, you can see these hornbills and you can have such an incredibly exciting time. But what I want to tell you is something completely different. And that's about this Longwa chieftain whom I met. And I'm sort of segueing into it by first sort of giving you a little tidbit. You're all familiar with the Greenwich Meridian that runs through London, isn't it? And so it's 0 degrees. At the other side of the world, there's another imaginary line. These are all imaginary lines. So this other imaginary line is the international date line. And it doesn't go straight. It sort of circumvents all these little islands in case one part of the island is a Tuesday and the other one Wednesday. So they were very careful. And at Longwa, the chieftain, he took us out into the sunshine, and he said, okay, I'm going to show you a line. And can I get up, please? Thank you. And he straddled this imaginary line, and he said, 1 foot is in India, and the other in Burma. He calls it Burma. So you look at the back of him, and where does the line run through? His house. It divides his house into 2. I mean, and he's happy with it. Everyone's happy with it. And the 2 countries are very happy with with this international boundary. Yeah. So many reasons for the Northeast.
So absolutely, and I totally agree. It is a fascinating part of the country, but it isn't the easiest. So I just wondered, as a guide, some of the little things you did and had to do as a game. Back then, hotels and everything was difficult. I mean, one of the things I loved in her book when you read it is that anywhere, suddenly there'll be this little bit, we stopped for coffee. But that is not a chai from the chai walla on the end of the road. No, that's bringing out a table. That is putting on a tablecloth. That is producing real coffee. And this is in a sort of, she saw it, there was it up in Arunachal? And you saw
Yeah, I'll tell you that story.
Tell them that story, because it's just wonderful.
So this is the Along Pasighat road, yeah? And I was warned. Now, you have to be in love with the people who are in the car, okay? You have to love them. Because you got to have them work for you. Don't think, oh, he's a driver and he's this, and no chance. You really have got to love the guy. Okay, so I'm looking out, and oh my God, it is so beautiful, this Along Pasighat road. And down, I can see through the forest, I can see this little sliver of white, silver sand jutting out into this azure blue of the Siang, that comes into India. And I said, I want to go down there. And my client, Pete, he said, no, Jennifer, don't get so excited. He's always telling me this. Don't get so excited. It's all right. We can have breakfast somewhere else. I said, no, I want that. So then the local guide turns around to me and he said, do you really want to go there? And I don't look at him, I look at the driver because he's the important one. And I say, Raju, I know you can do anything if I ask you. Please, can you get me down there? Okay, ma'am. So he turns the car around, and then we go into some area, and he sort of parks it just, if he had parked it further, we would have fallen down the gorge, And then we got out, so my client started walking down. And I said, Raju, and my local guide's name was Debashish, tables and chairs. You want the tables and chairs? Yes, I want the tables and chairs. What's the point of going all the way down there without my tables and chairs and my picnic basket? So we carried all that down, and they helped me set it up. We were the only person in the world. There was nobody else. There was one frantic sand martin going round saying, what the hell is this? I've never seen anything like it. And we opened up the tables and the chairs, and I spread this pretty tablecloth and the lovely cutlery and the crockery, and took out my flask of coffee and these pretty mugs and everything, and McVitie's biscuits and all that, and a little whatever. I mean, I carried all this with me. It was part of me. It was part of me, my and everything, the camembert and all that. I shopped well in Delhi. I was an empowered guide by my travel agent. He said, Jennifer, I don't care about your client. I only care about you because you are the tough cookie.
Well, you're probably answering the question, but I was about to say, what was Pete's incentive to travel with you all this time and keep coming back to travel with you?
Really,
but then maybe vice versa. What was your feeling about traveling with Pete?
Okay, so the first thing, when I got the call, this was another book I'm going to write here. It's not the travel agent whom I dealt with first is not the travel agent I talk about in the book. So I got a call, and he said, we've drawn up this itinerary for about 40 days, and will you be the guide? And I said, to whom, to what, to how, what, whatever. And he said, okay, there's this British client, we don't know anything about him. You don't know anything about him? No, we don't know. Okay. So is he a photographer, wildlife, something? No, Jennifer, we don't know. Do you want the job or not? And by the way, cut your per diem rate into half. And I was thinking, even if he doesn't pay me, I will go. Because the experience I've learned is priceless. You can't put a value on it. And whether they pay you or not, who cares, So I'm in this. And the thing is, I want to sort of segue into it. I was getting 3,000 rupees a month from my pension, from my admiral husband who had died 30 years ago. And so, because I couldn't feed my kids, I sent them out. I said, please forget about me, forget about your mother. You go. And they went. They cried and went, but they went. That was the best thing I did, Because, look at me now. I'm having the ball of my life. so now here I'm sitting and talking to you. And what are we talking about? Oh, yes, we. Yes. So then here we are. And he said, so I said, okay, you can't tell me anything about the client. At least tell me, is he handsome? Because the mandate was, 40 days. Okay, that's bad enough. 40 days. And then the mandate was that I had to eat every meal with him, travel with him, talk to him. I don't want this ordinary face. I want a pretty face. So I'm thinking, is he handsome? And he said, oh, Jennifer, just forget that. Do you want the job or not? So I said, yes, I'll take it. But guys, the joke was on me because he was devastatingly handsome. And I'm saying, Jennifer, don't look there. Don't look. Don't look. It will be your undoing. Don't look. Oh, my
Brilliant.
God.
Well, I think I'm going to...
That's one thing. So the other half of the question I have to answer is how he kept coming back.
Yes, he did.
Okay.
Well, perhaps he thought the same of you. He may have said to his travel agent, I'm only going to go with a good-looking guide.
You're so sweet, Emma. So anyway, so now this is not in this book, okay, the story. Up or down? Not? Not mild enough. Wild enough. Okay, so now I'm going to fly to Connemara, to Tamil Nadu, to Chennai, and meeting Pete for the first time. All right? Now, as a guide, you take in everything. You look at people and you take in all the details because you feed all that information into you. It's all valuable information. You can't just go and sit, I'm the guide, what do you want to know? And then he asked me questions and I fed him what he wanted to know. You don't need to know basis. You don't pull out all the tricks of your trade. So, and then I noticed that carelessly slung over the corner of this chair was a pair of binoculars. Now that is heavy information for me. He didn't know I was a bird watcher. I mean real birds, feathered birds, okay? Don't look at me like that. And so I filed that information away. And so when I first took him on as a client, I have to tell you that the travel agent was not a very good one. He kept me in a hovel. Sometimes worse than a hovel, if that's possible, but I was never in the same hotel as my client, okay? So within that first week, and we're following this itinerary, I get a call from my client, say, come. Actually, there was no call. Was there in those days? I mean, so long ago, no? Anyway, so he said, come to my hotel, I want to see you. And I went, and he said, he thrust this itinerary at me. And he said, Jennifer, what does free day mean? Free day? I said, free day means free. You're free. You're free of me. You don't have to do anything. He said, are you serious? I said, yes. You're in this luxury hotel. Luxuriate in it. You can't be serious. So what did I do next? I said, can I stand up again? So I look at him and I say, okay then. I will see what I can do. I'll handle it. And I walked off. And as I walked off, he said, oh, Jennifer, by the way, money is of no consequence. Oh, thank you. Now, what I didn't say was, oh, you know, this, I have not drawn up this. It is not my itinerary. It is belonging to the travel agent. I do not have any power. And what will I do? The company will say this and that. Did I care? No. I want to have fun. This is my fun. You create circumstances so that for your own merriment, you have to enjoy, eke out all the joy that you can from your life, you know. Create it if there is no joy. Create it. Yeah. So then, I haven't finished, Emma.
You told me yesterday I was allowed to stop you.
And so I went. I'm not sitting down, Emma. And so when he said, what are we going to do? Okay. And I said, okay, I'll think of it. I went straight down because I knew I was in Tamil Nadu. Okay. And I had educated myself on birding through the reading of Salim Ali. I'd never met the man, but I had all his books, his volumes and everything. I have my own library. And so then I knew Vedantangal. That's where I'm going to take him, because that is in Tamil Nadu. Did I know from the Connemara to the Vedantangal how far it was? No, I didn't know anything. But I knew, same state, I'm going to do that. So I told the driver, I said, driver, now, can you get us to Vedantangal? He said, 70 kilometers. I said, take us there. I don't care. I'll pay you as much as you want, but you take me there. So now I went back to the client and I said, okay, if you can get your sun hat and if you can get some water and maybe biscuits. I was not empowered, no, to do anything, to buy or to take sandwiches or any such thing. I said, just wear your sun hat and come with me. And he came. Not one word did he ask. Nothing. He didn't ask. And he sat like a good Englishman. He sat very quietly. And we went to Vedantangal. Now you have to imagine, we were the only car on the road. There were bullock carts and cyclists and everything else but cars. And we took a couple of hours to reach, finally. And so in my romantic imagination, I had this view of Vedantangal, beautiful lake, overflowing, you know, and all the winter migrant species were there. Of course they were there, but it had much sunk because 100 years had passed since Salim Ali died, and so many 100 years had passed since the lake, you know. Yeah, but I made him sit, and I will sit, and then and he just sat there and I taught him how to watch birds in great detail. Everything. I gave him all the skills, and I showed him how to interpret Inskip's book. Inskip had just come out with the field guide. He had the big tome in 2000, but by 2008-9 or something, it came out with these field guides. So I taught him how to interpret it and everything. So now, after one whole day, and we sit in the car, and the Englishman does not talk so much. So we go all the way back, and he's very silent. And we get to the hotel, and I, make the motions of going back to my hovel. And he said, one moment, Jennifer, not just yet. Oh, boy. And he said, wait here, please. He went inside, got the itinerary, and he opened it, and he said, when's the next free day? So we went from free day to free day, and we messed up the whole itinerary, and we did what I wanted to do.
So on that note,
yes.
You did make Pete do all sorts of things.
Yes.
And I would like you to read a passage from your book, because I think it's time we heard something that Jennifer's written. And I think we both know the one we want read, which is your little visitation in Nagaland and the accommodation you were trying to put him in. Or the guest house was trying to put you in. So just a taster of how the book is and how Jennifer writes, which is as good as how she speaks.
Okay, so this is in... Oh, so sorry. Thank you. So this is in Nagaland, and we had just come out from the Ong's big house, and he had showed us all the skulls and everything, all the guys that he had killed. And the skulls were, assembled there in a corner. And we had fun together. And so now this is just after that visit to the Ong, A-U-N-G-H, means chieftain, okay? So here's the passage. We bid goodbye to the whole community that lived in that house, straddling 2 different countries, then headed off to find our hotel in the vicinity of Mon, home to the Konyak tribal people. Bookings by the Kolkata travel agency had been made for 3 rooms in the best available Helsa cottage in that region. As it turned out, there was no hotel. Instead, it was a homestay, or rather, rooms on rent. More aptly, it was room on rent. Expecting a signboard displaying the hotel's name, we stood outside looking embarrassed as Debashish, remember he's the guide, the local guide, embarrassed as Debashish walked into what looked like somebody's bedroom. A friendly Konyak tribal woman came to greet us and proudly showed us the mammoth bed we were all going to sleep in. Pete reddened visibly. I laughed out loud. Debashish, in good faith, actually suggested that Pete and I share the room and that he would find alternative accommodation because this was the only safe area. Safe for foreigners, safe for women, and safe for men against other men who were likely to be roaring drunk as they were readying for the forthcoming music and dance festival. I was quite happy to go off with Debashish and take my chances at alternative accommodation. But Pete would have none of that. The gentleman in him insisted that I take the room and that he and Debashish would take their chances, both being men. It was at these times, or times like these, that I felt indebted to the kind of man Pete was. There was no wasting time in the fuss and detail of what was booked and what was paid for and what should have been done and what could have been done, or any of the tedious hypothetical suggestions that come so readily to some people in uncertain circumstances where essentials were luxuries. Instead, Pete suggested we pull out the forbidden whiskey and have a drink. We were served an insubstantial dinner, but food was the least of our problems. The woman who owned Helsa Cottage suggested accommodation some 13 kilometers away. She gave Debashish directions on how to get there. I didn't know how much of the instructions he understood, but there was only one road. And he said he'd stop as soon as he hit what looked like hutments. Both men left all their belongings behind with me for safekeeping, and with a bare minimum, which included Pete's Leica binoculars, they set off for God knows where. The town had been without electricity for 5 days. All to myself in the bedroom, big enough for a standing elephant, I considered all possibilities that could go wrong, changing my life forever. but those were pointless thoughts. So I fell into a dreamless sleep alone in a very large bed.
Thank you. Just brilliant. So I think we're slowly running out of time, or probably rather rapidly running out of time before we have some questions. But I have one last question for Jennifer, which is to do with the title, No Half Measures. And where does that come from? And a special request from somebody in the audience was reading a little bit of the Cahill Gibran poem at the beginning.
Okay, so I'm standing again. Okay. so there was a friend of mine who'd moved off to Australia, and it was around my birthday time, and he rang me up and he said, Jennifer, I was reading Khalil Gibran's poem, and I thought of you because I know you have his books and you love his poetry and all that. So I'm sending you one. And so it's on WhatsApp, and go through it. Now, WhatsApp, you're the small little thing, and you have to go and read the whole thing, and I'm reading and saying, okay, you know, because it's a little tedious to read so much, you know. I mean, people our age. So, and then I came to the end, and I said, oh, and I paraphrased that whole poem into 3 words. Yeah? So shall I just read a bit?
It is not. Just read a little.
I'm folding it. Is it all right? It's my book.
I got the heart.
We're like jokers. Do not love half lovers. Do not entertain half friends. Do not indulge in works of the half-talented. Do not live half a life. And do not die half a death. If you choose silence, then be silent. And when you speak, do so until you are finished. Do not silence yourself to say something, and do not speak to be silent. If you accept, then express it bluntly. Do not mask it. If you refuse, then be clear about it. For an ambiguous refusal is but a weak acceptance. Do not accept half a solution. Do not believe half-truths. Do not dream half a dream. Fantasize about half-hopes. Half a drink will not quench your thirst. Half a meal will not satiate your hunger. Half the way will get you nowhere. Half an idea will bear you no results. Your other half is not the one you love. It is you in another time, yet in the same space. It is you when you are not. Half a life is a life you didn't live. A word you have not said. A smile you postponed. A love you have not had. A friendship you did not know to reach and not arrive. Work and not work. Attend only to be absent. What makes you a stranger to them closest to you, and they strangers to you? The half is a mere moment of inability, but you are able, for you are not half a being. You are a whole that exists to live a life, not half a life. I said the whole thing.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.